I remember the first day I walked into that office. The year was different. The technology was different. The world was different. But the message was always the same. Work hard. Stay loyal. Keep your head down. Do good work. And you'll have a career. Back then, we believed that. Not because we were naive. Because that's what we saw. Our parents worked for the same company for decades. People retired with gold watches. Loyalty meant something. At least that's what we thought. And for a long time, it looked like the system worked. Then one day, the layoffs came anyway. Not because we failed. Not because we were lazy. Not because we didn't deliver. The layoffs came because the rules had changed. And nobody told us. If you're Gen X, this story may feel familiar. If you're younger, this story might explain why so many Gen X workers became skeptical of corporate promises. This isn't a lesson. It's a confession. It's the story of what many of us believed. And what happened when reality finally caught up. Before we begin, I want to ask you something. If you've ever worked hard, stayed loyal, missed family events, skipped vacations, and still felt like the company would replace you tomorrow, type Gen X in the comments. I genuinely want to know how many people watching this have lived through that reality. And if stories about workplace psychology, career truths, and the lessons nobody taught us resonate with you, make sure you subscribe. Because on this channel, we're not selling motivation. We're uncovering the truths many people only learn after decades in the workforce. Now let's talk about the promise many of us believed. And why it didn't turn out the way we expected. The deal we thought we had. When I started working, there was an unwritten agreement. Nobody said it out loud. But everyone understood it. You give the company your effort. The company gives you stability. You show up early. Stay late when needed. Take ownership. Be dependable. And when difficult times come, the company remembers. That was the deal. Or so we thought. For years I followed those rules. Most of my generation did. We weren't chasing internet fame. We weren't building personal brands. We were building careers. At least we believed we were. Before I continue, I want to pause for a moment. Because if you've made it this far, there's a good chance this story feels personal. Maybe you've been through a layoff. Maybe you've watched loyal coworkers disappear overnight. Or maybe you're still working for a company you once believed would take care of you. If any part of this story resonates with you, hit the like button. Not for me, but because every like helps this message reach more people who need to hear it. And if you know someone who's still sacrificing everything for a company that may never return that loyalty, share this video with them. It could save them years of disappointment. Now let's continue. Because what I learned after the layoff changed how I viewed work forever. The years start adding up. 1 year became 5. 5 became 10. 10 became 20. Suddenly your life becomes attached to a place. You know every hallway. Every conference room. Every manager. Every shortcut. You survive mergers. Reorganizations. New leadership. Economic downturns. You adapt. You stay. And every year that passes strengthens the belief that you're safe. After all, why wouldn't you be? You've earned it. At least that's what you tell yourself. The first cracks. I still remember the first layoff announcement. People gathered in small groups. Whispers filled the office. Nobody thought it would affect them. Especially not the loyal employees. Especially not the veterans. Especially not the people who had given years of their lives. Then something strange happened. Some of those people disappeared. Not retired. Not promoted. Gone. One day they were there. The next day their desk was empty. The company moved on surprisingly fast. That was the first crack in the story. We kept believing anyway. But here's the thing. Most of us didn't stop believing. We told ourselves it was an exception. A necessary business decision. An unfortunate circumstance. Surely loyalty still mattered. Surely performance still mattered. Surely experience still mattered. So we worked harder. Stayed longer. Gave more. Because nobody wants to believe the rules they've followed their entire life might be wrong. The moment everything changed. Then one morning it happened. Not to someone else. To me. A meeting appeared on the calendar. No explanation. No details. Just a meeting. You know that feeling when your stomach tells you something before your brain does? I felt it. The room was quiet. The conversation was short. Almost rehearsed. Years of service summarized in a few minutes. Years of commitment reduced to paperwork. It wasn't dramatic. That's what shocked me most. The company that had been part of my life for decades moved on with incredible efficiency. And just like that, the story I believed for years collapsed. What hurt the most? Losing the job was difficult. But it wasn't the hardest part. The hardest part was realizing something. The relationship wasn't what I thought it was. I saw the company as a partnership. The company saw it as a transaction. Neither side was evil. But the expectations were completely different. That realization hit harder than the layoff itself. Because it forced me to question everything I believed about work. The lesson nobody taught Gen X. We were taught how to work. Nobody taught us how to protect ourselves. We were taught loyalty. Not leverage. We were taught dedication. Not visibility. We were taught reliability. Not adaptability. We became incredibly valuable employees. But many of us never learned how to become resilient professionals. There's a difference. And that difference matters. Looking back. If I could talk to my younger self, I wouldn't tell him not to work hard. I'd still tell him to care. To be dependable. To take pride in his work. But I'd tell him something else too. The company is not your identity. Your job is not your security. Your title is not your value. And loyalty should never come at the expense of your future. Because the workplace can change overnight. The economy can change overnight. Leadership can change overnight. The only thing that truly belongs to you is the person you become along the way. What I learned after the layoff. Oddly enough, the layoff taught me something freedom never could. It forced me to separate who I was from what I did. For years, my career defined me. Then suddenly it couldn't. And when that happened, I started seeing life differently. I spent more time with family. I noticed things I had been too busy to notice. I stopped measuring my worth by performance reviews. I stopped chasing approval from people whose priorities could change at any moment. For the first time in a long time, I felt lighter. Closing thoughts. So when I hear someone say, "Just stay loyal," I understand what they mean. But I also understand what they don't. Loyalty is admirable. Blind loyalty is dangerous. Work hard. Absolutely. Be dependable. Of course. Take pride in your work. Always. But never forget this. Companies can restructure. Markets can shift. Leaders can change. And layoffs can come anyway. Not because you failed. Not because you weren't good enough, but because the world doesn't always operate according to the promises we were given. And maybe that's the hardest lesson Gen X ever had to learn. We believed in job security. The layoffs came anyway. And once you've lived through that, you never see work the same way again. If this story felt familiar, share your experience in the comments. I'd genuinely like to hear it. Because for many of us, this isn't just a workplace story. It's a chapter of our lives. And maybe by sharing it, we can help someone else understand the truth a little sooner. And maybe that's the hardest lesson Gen X ever had to learn. We believed in job security. The layoffs came anyway. And once you've lived through that, you never see work the same way again. Before you leave, I want to hear your story. How many years did you give to a company? Did loyalty pay off? Or did you learn this lesson the hard way? Share your experience in the comments. I read them. And often, the stories in the comments are just as powerful as the video itself. If this story reminded you of your own journey, please subscribe. Because this channel is for people who want the truth about work, office politics, corporate culture, career growth, and the realities most companies never talk about. And if you know a fellow Gen Zer, a friend, a coworker, a spouse, or a family member who still believes hard work alone guarantees security, share this video with them. One conversation can change how someone approaches the next decade of their career. And finally, if you've ever experienced a layoff, corporate betrayal, broken promises, or the feeling that your loyalty wasn't valued, hit like. Let's show people they're not alone. Because the biggest surprise wasn't that the layoffs came. The biggest surprise was discovering how many of us lived the exact same story. And that story deserves to be told. I'll see you in the next one.